But somebody told me, I talked to this and he said it's probably your cadence. Your basic cadence.
Okay, good evening everyone. It's 7 and we're going to get going. There may be people squeezing in as the introduction happens. Hopefully not all the poems are being read. Very pleased to have you join us on this very spring-like day. I swear the plants in the garden were not there this morning. They're this tall now. It's so exciting. A little bit of a housekeeping. I'm going to ask you to turn off phones and other distracting devices. And there are doors over here and over there if we need to get out quickly. And I want to officially thank CATV for filming this reading, as they've been doing other readings in the past. You could catch them on the channel 2 nights a week, or you can go to our website and stream them from there. And I want to note that April Ossmann is reading poems from her collection, Event Boundaries, copyright 2017, with permission of 4-Way Books, all rights reserved. And Ina Anderson is reading from Journey into Space, also with permission, all rights reserved. So, the format tonight is I'm going to do a brief introduction of both of the poets, and then they have the floor one after the other, and then when they're finished reading, everybody can stand up and put their chairs against the wall so we can actually move because it's pretty crowded. We have a full house. And then cookies and cider and books are in the front. The gorgeous cookies were baked tonight by April for us. And then the poets are going to stay back here and sign books so that there's room for people to move around. I just want to mention we have an amazingly full calendar from now through July, if you count the Canaan readings, which we do because we do the books, and there's things going on almost every week through the end of the summer. I just want to mention that tomorrow night at 7 at the Norwich Historical Society, 2 buildings down, Peter Gould is going to be presenting from his book called Horse-Drawn Yogurt, which is stories of the Total Lost Farm, moving to a commune in Vermont in the 70s. He's a character. It's going to be a really fun night. And for the poetry fans, Pamela Harrison will be reading here on the 17th of May. We also have James Wright is going to be speaking about his book Enduring Vietnam, and we have Peter Heller, Stephen Kiernan, Jeffrey Lent, and other novelists coming in May. So we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter so I don't have to do all the details up here. Okay, but tonight we are honored to welcome Ina Anderson and April Ossmann. Ina was born and raised in rural England, which you can tell when you hear her. And later in London, she was on the staff of the Town Planning Institute, which as an editorial assistant, and that experience stood her in good stead when she did come to the States, where she worked as a technical editor on several journals, including Icarus, the International Journal of the Solar System. And the editor on that was Carl Sagan. And then she, for the past 20 years, has been teaching writing, speaking, and literature at the Community College of Vermont. And while Journey into Space is her first collection, her poems have appeared in several publications, including Poem Town Randolph, which I think is a great title, and a recent anthology, Perhaps It Was the Pie. She is also a fiber artist and lives locally with her husband, Peter. And April Ossmann was born and raised in California and is currently living in Windsor. And she was the executive director of Alice James Books for 8 years in the early 2000s. Those zeros. She left to launch her consulting business, which is editing poetry and offering publishing services, publishing advice to poets and writers. She is a faculty editor for the low residency MFA in creative writing at Sierra Nevada College at Lake Tahoe. She travels a lot and teaches poetry workshops as well as creating writing classes locally. She is the recipient of several awards for poetry, including the 2013 Vermont Council on the Arts Creation Grant. And Event Boundaries is her second collection following Anxious Music, and her poems have been published in numerous journals, including the New England Review and the Harvard Review, and several anthologies. So without further ado, we will start with Anna Anderson.
Is that about right? How's that sound in the back? No?
No. You need to be closer.
Just right.
It's on.
Come closer to it.
Really close.
That's good.
That's good? Intimate. Thank you, everyone, for coming. What a lovely crowd. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure April does too. I've got to keep my mouth near this thing. Great that you're willing to come out on such a spring evening, coming inside. Wonderful. As Liza said, I grew up in England, and this collection is primarily about my life there as a young person. I was just speaking to my friends in that second row and noting how another friend of mine, Amy Belding Brown, said to me, Ina, you've got to push that book of poetry by remarking on how much it's an English book. Exploit the Downton Abbey market. Well, yes, thank you, Amy. There's nothing Downton Abbey about this, but perhaps you won't know the difference. I'm going to start with a poem about my grandfather. I don't remember him. He died when I was very young, but he was a family legend. His name was Joe Baker, and that's the name of this poem. Joe Baker. His wife and children, mostly grown, worked around the rocking of his favorite chair. His words were few enough, but always clear, requests for fresh tea or comments on the radio news. But here was war again, and 20 years had barely passed. The shipyard and the steelworks drew them in most nights, the buzzing, droning planes dropping bomb after bomb, that high-pitched squealing, shattering the houses and the shops, leveling the railway station just down the street. No milk to be had, and scarcely any bread. Joe Baker rocked and puffed his pipe. The air raid sirens wailed again tonight, and Annie scurried round to gather a few things into a bag, load her arms with a coat and a blanket, tie a warm scarf round her head. Come on, Joe, stir yourself. Here's your cap, and put on this warm jersey. Come on, Joe, I've got your coat. Joe rocked. His face was still, his lips just gently pulling on his pipe. He didn't look at Annie. He didn't stir. Come on, Joe, come on, come on. You can't just sit there. We've barely time to reach the shelter steps. And in the end, they left him there, rocking gently, rocking, determined that this war would not dictate his life, that come what may, this war would not bend him to its will, that he would never again scurry like a rat into a bomb shelter hole, no matter how his wife and family wailed, that the war would not fill him with fear and frenzy, make him crouch in a piss-reeking hole with whimpering children, cowering neighbors, wetting themselves in fright as the bombs screeched overhead. The all-clear siren wailing. Families straggled up the shelter steps, up into the cold night air, floating with heavy dust. Looking to left and right, they gasped at the flattened houses, the street filled with cursing and weeping, neighbors running in all directions. Annie's eyes pierced the dusty dark, scared to hope, unwilling to believe what she might see. Though the row was leveled to either side, her number 28 still stood. A wither of smoke like a mist reached up its chimney to the sky. Joe Baker rocked inside. His pipe was barely lit, a tiny coal glowing in the dark. He sucked on it still. Plaster dust filled his hair, covered his jacket, his trouser thighs. His eyes smiled at Annie as she came in the broken door. "It's all right, Annie. Don't you fret." So that was Grandpa. My dad was Tom Baker, and this one's about him. And the title of this poem is The Strawberry, and the strawberry is a pub. The Strawberry. How did it begin, this lifetime habit? Did it start when he was fancy-free, picking up lasses on his BSA motorbike, cloth cap at an angle, dapper tie, that sweet grin? Was Wednesday night at the Strawberry a good night out with the lads even back then? Did he boast his prowess, chewing pickled herring and swilling down best bitter? What time did those lads get down to a serious game of cards? So when Mum, barely 19, shook at him her auburn 20s bob and flashed those sultry hazel eyes, was he caught unawares? Was it she who insisted on commitment, knowing he'd go like a lamb? Him past 25 by then, was it time to settle down? Oats sown and business prospering, did he crave now some respectability with a looker beside him in his new Singer Sports? There was the war, of course, scuttling down into air raid shelters, shops and houses leveled to rubble. And it took them 10 years of trying before they produced a child. It was a comfort to him then, reliably, on Wednesday nights, to know he'd be going down to the Strawberry, just the lads, a letting down, a long breath out. 40 years on, no car but a chair on wheels. She offered to drive him. "No," he said, "that's not what it's about." I was fortunate to have the best dad ever. And the title poem for the book, Journey into Space, is this. My brownie uniform is brown, of course, and my tie is mustard yellow. Yes, I have lots of badges too. But near the end of brownie meeting, I'm already off and out the door, crossing Abbey Road, running pell-mell down Valley Drive Hill. I fly past Colin Cunliffe's house, not even caring about his scary dog, fly by Stollers with their big furniture van outside, dart in between Doling's house and ours, number 28, and in our back door. There's no time to hang my coat on the hall stand with the folded umbrellas and the Wellingtons. I bound straight into the dining room, straight to the big brown radiogram gleaming in the corner. The big lid is already up. I can hear the music for the program. Daddy's eyes light up to greet me, and he pats the seat close next to his. It's our time. It's our program. For the next half hour, we'll travel together to faraway galaxies. We'll meet all sorts of aliens. We'll reach the farthest corners of the cosmos. I made it. I'm home in time for Journey into Space. My elementary school was a convent school, a day school, and it was a lovely place. Nothing but happy memories. This is called the convent school gym. We girls pranced a lot like ponies, the nuns flashing us their lovely, careful smiles. We'd sing our times tables. We'd sing our greeting as sister entered the room. It was a tall old house we shared, sweeping stairs, polished banisters. Outside we'd run in the orchard, blue frocks sailing. Cold weather, though, we'd file down the long lawn, past the towering rhododendrons, and stoop into our gym. Low into the ground, no windows, just a few light bulbs swinging. Too young, we knew nothing of this shelter's earlier purpose, how families had cowered there, praying those walls would hold against the blitz. We'd run races in there. We'd throw a ball, our happy voices reverberating off those heavy cement walls. I lived on the Dutton Estuary, a lovely, lovely place going out towards the Irish Sea, the Dutton River and its tributaries. But only a few people were allowed to fish the salmon. No, the gentry, they could. This poem is called The Poacher. After dark, there'd be a soft knock at the door. "I'll get it," said Mum. Taking her handbag with her, she went to lift the latch. "A couple of nice ones tonight, Mrs. Baker." He grinned and reached down inside his tall black wellies, drew out two large dark salmon, eyes bulging, still hopelessly gulping at the air. "Ooh, those are nice," whispered Mum, reaching inside her purse. "10 shillings? And "Yes," he said, "that'll do nicely," as his smile faded out the door back into the night. Little older, teenager, and this is probably universal there or here. This one's called the Coronation Hall, local dance hall. "Please, Dad," I said, "don't pick me up at the door, Dad. Don't pick me up at the door. Park down that side street, Dad. Wait there, I won't be late." And the music was loud now, and the lads were coming in, strolling, not to be seen too keen, and it was smoke gets in your eyes now, and April love is for the very young. My frock was good, and my legs were long, and the wires in my new pink bra did wonders for my little breasts. My heart was healing, too, from the clamoring I'd got from the boy I'd thought I'd give myself to forever. Here I could start again, start over, find a fella who'd want me through and through. Surely tonight I'd find a lad to make me laugh, to make me dance, to throw off the last of that long, hard hurt. But it was hardly a lad found me that night, but a man in a suit with a car. His smile stretched the width of his face, and his strut was long learned, long rewarded. There was money in his pocket from months at Dounreay, and his hands were practiced gentle, and his mouth. And after the music stopped, though the ginnels were packed with couples against the walls, we found a ledge, a corner dark enough to plant him deep in my willing young heart. Well, yes, he became my boyfriend. A little bit to the consternation of my parents, but he was not a villain. This one's called Up Poker Beck. Poker Beck is the Cumbrian word for stream, and Poker Beck is the name of that particular stream. That man, Mum, he's my new boyfriend. I found him Friday night at the Coronation Hall. He has a car, Mum, and his back seat's really comfy. It's a bit old, but he drives it like a bomb. Last night, Mum, we got some chips in Dalton and then drove up Poker Beck behind the plant. It didn't take him long, Mum, for him to get my blouse off. But it was warm, Mum. I didn't catch cold. Don't tell Dad, Mum. I know he wouldn't like him. He'd say he'd give me trouble, say I'm nobbut still a child. If you keep quiet, Mum, I swear I'll be real careful. But honesty's really fun, Mum, and I'm going to do it more. So life went on wonderfully, idyllically. But eventually, cut to the chase in the book, at 21, I left. Left for college earlier than that, but left the country at 21. And much of the rest of the book is looking back on some of the characters and people and events in memory. A couple of the people that meant a lot to me have a poem, a piece here, and the first one is Stan. Not as far as Bailiff Ground, but past Gargrave, just into Soutergate, Bell Hall Cottage blends grey into the rumpled row, no, but just allowing room to park a car and still let a tractor through. The double glazing salesman's bin, his telltale fake wood window casings bracing against the shifting winds from off the receding tide. The petrol tins and feed buckets line the wall, a pleasing orderliness in these things, a testament to thrift. I left young. Stan remained lifelong, a fixture in the salt green landscape, a crag, a marsh bird, a deeply rooted gorse. Now his grandchild gallops the moors astride the offspring of his Shetland stallion. And Iris was, from a young age, my writing teacher, my young age. And she became a second mother to me. Iris. Time was when, upon a death, all useful things were gladly taken. Threads, needles, pans, spoons. What was in places worn might make a patch. A chipped dish might in another kitchen house a plant, some parsley or fragrant rosemary. From drawers the clan would sort the photographs, chat over memories and tea. Granddaughters would leave with small collections. A seasoned spoon in a new kitchen would stir the batter from an old recipe. Iris gone. Her shadow lies lifeless in the cold bungalow. No clan here. Now the agent ousts the few antiques of value, naming them in pounds sterling. His two lads drag what's left out the door and heap it on the lawn. Coats, gloves, dishes, books. Photo albums splay open on the wet grass and the rain comes down. Little memories in little words, a playful play on the word we use now, pin. The cash machine asks me for my pin. If I have a pin, I can take out all the money in the world. But my pin is a tool to take out, one at a time, each red jewel seed from a pomegranate Mum got for a treat from the greengrocers on Paxton Terrace. Or, if we went to Walney to see Auntie Dolly, we needed a pin to pick boiled winkles from their shells for tea. Mince pies. Early on, Mum started teaching me to bake. We worked together at the white enamel pull-out baking shelf, me standing on a stool. Jam tarts, mince pies, vanilla slices, and her favorite raspberry sponge. She'd take some to her friends. When I got to Mum's kitchen across the ocean barely 48 hours after she was dead, I opened her oven, a big tray of cold mince pies. I stuffed all of them one after another into my howling mouth. There's much about people in these poems, yet my deep attachment to Cumbria is just as much about place. We say over there that the fell sheep are hefted to their own part of the fells. I'm hefted to the Duddon Fells and the Duddon Estuary. This poem is called Here is My Inventory of Loss. The way the light slants, cloud-piercing, a shifting crown on the fell tops. The skylarks, heaven-held, rising, dropping, singing their hearts out. The sheep, everywhere the sheep. They're cropping the scant fell grass, their wool caught in the gorse, in the wire. The fells, climbing steep from the estuary, brackened, yellow with gorse, crag after crag. Slate, pile upon pile, quarried for centuries, 1,000 miles of walls, sheepfolds, pastures, roofs. The estuary shore, crinkling into nothingness, losing itself in the dark. And I've finished just with a couple more that are now, poems of now. I just got back from Cumbria less than 2 weeks ago. I'm able to make my annual pilgrimage now every spring. It's a good ploy to avoid Vermont mud season, of course. And this is a poem that I think of when I'm still there and just about to set off back here. April. While you are sleeping, the single hours deep in your breath, I sit in another day, skylarks twittering, ewes bleating for their wayward lambs. I feel the rise and fall of you, your arm outstretched to my empty side of the bed. I know, as if I'm there, the sweet aroma of your sweat, the mysterious words you utter. Here, sheep move across the fell like a wave. Slate clouds spit at the incoming tide. Now, only days until I must leave this green, burst through vast skies into your remaining winter emptiness. Vermont clearly has become my second home, and I've come to love it too. My life here has been truly blessed, and I often reflect on my good fortune. My last poem for you this evening is called Anniversary. Other women wanted roses, the cloying stickiness of chocolates, the promises, the amnesia. At puberty, their mothers had injected them with fear serum, with a guaranteed desire to disappear. They drank long draughts of smile with evenly spaced teeth. They pared their nails to perfect points. Other women wanted jaguars, chauffeurs even, uniformed men in polite caps and lace-ups. Barely settled into menstrual cycles, they'd listed the right schools for 2 or 4 offspring, weighed the limits of their expectations for envied invitations. Was it neglect that caught me unawares? Did my mother's indulgence release me? Or in life's lottery did I just luck out? Jump on a ticket to ride to the moon and back and land in the lap of a centaur from Minnesota. Place your bets, ladies and gents. Is this one a long shot or what? Can a ride last half a century? Can the moon trolley shoot over and over, the rush not diminish, the laughter not fade? What is this compensation for exile, this joining deep in the bone? What can ever be sufficient gratefulness? Thank you.
All right, how's that? Is that good? Okay. So, thank you all for coming. This is like homecoming. So many faces I love here. Thanks. And Liza, this is the best organized reading ever. I'm so impressed. Thank you. So, this first poem, if you were reading it on the page, you wouldn't need me to say this, but since I'm reading it aloud, I'm going to. There's a one-syllable word at the end of the poem, and the word is night. One night, it may be otherwise, but tonight I see the fawn in time to slow. I don't kill or maim it visibly, though my light terrifies the fawn loping awkwardly along the yellow line, fast as its thin new legs can wobble it, and I, witness to suffering too brightly lit, no sign of its mother, just me, godlike in deadly metal, rending silence with my awful horn, my relentless pursuit, just me and the fawn alone on the merciless road. In the immense darkness, we humans reduce to a syllable as if we could or should. This next poem, I'm going to tell a little story first. I used to get my oil changed at one of those places that changes your oil really fast, and I would always chat with the manager while they changed the oil. And one day I went to get the oil changed, and he wasn't there. So I asked one of the guys, I said, where's the manager? Where's Larry? And all of the guys in the place crowded around me in a circle to tell me the story of what happened to Larry, which was really sad. He had a stroke. But they were angry when they were telling me the story, and I was really freaked out. So I kept thinking about it, and I wrote the poem to figure out why they were angry. Guaranteed 10-minute oil change. Give us oil dark hands flashing in dim light, stained waiting chairs, smoky air, and incessant traffic. Even that all-day wine's phantom echo in our ears all night, but not Larry's tears or fainting, misfiring language and motor skills. Yes to a successful change of oil, to the capable, chain-smoking manager of our performance-awarded regional team, but not his bending knees and undrunk stumbling, wavery mirror we wish to see no selves in, least of all our own. And I'd say this next poem isn't seasonal, but it's barely not seasonal. There's a blizzard in it. Stubborn. I know it'll be hard after the blizzard, but don't ponder it. You can't if you plan to act. Where would Hercules, Ulysses, or any heroes be if they'd thought? Take Superman. Could he have flown? So I'm stuck, hip deep and rabid, talking myself out from where the plow left gray-flecked snow-banked, too deep for me. Calm down, lift one ski, then the other. Soon, I'm in a rhythm. Not easy, but any rhythm's easier than breaking stride. I've had relationships like that, tight as outgrown shoes. so it's not fun, but a challenge I can't resist. White pines loaded with snow threaten, creaking in wind, but I pretend not to hear. Only half my usual distance, but I turn homeward, sweat-soaked, creeped out by the doomsday yellow overcast. It occurs to me I could die lying under a blank birch, gone blanker with snow, though I can't picture it. Like most, I'd like to go sleeping, but forecast drama, plane crash, earthquake, something with explosions and companions, or an audience, something unlike these deserted woods drifted white, June deep already at midwinter. Will I finally get my fill of snow? I moved here for it, and every winter I'm disappointed. It's never like novels where flakes keep falling till people are bored, scared, or homicidal. It seems I like my thrills at home. Alcoholic, depressed, bipolar, send 'em over. No job too tough for this little prairie dog. Like Laura in the long winter, I'm the latest in a long line of headstrong women, square-jawed and stubborn, convinced we'll win through to spring. Peak. The woodpecker isn't pecking wood. He's pecking the metal eave of my standing seam roof, making a racket that reverberates as echo, strutting his stuff for a female more peaked than I, or staking territory we disagree is his, an argument I've had with one or two of his human fellows. But who doesn't want to beat on something once in a while? Who doesn't miss metal trash can lids, the opportunity to perfect the perfect clamor? Take a bat, make some noise, give some ears what for, ring them inside out. When your people call my people to arrange a meeting, know that lately I am giving myself to sleep as I once gave myself in love. My body flung eagerly into bed, limbs limp and heavy with pleasure. The bedclothes, on waking, arranged exactly as I entered them. I am in love now with rest, with release from the tireless ego. Let us meet while we sleep, which seems lately to be less a rehearsal for death than a preview of immortality, and see what our souls see, where we are our inward selves only, and all ourselves are not at war, when all our loyalty belongs to dreaming. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Allstate commercials featuring Dean Winters about mayhem, where Allstate promises to save you from that. This poem is in conversation with those commercials. Mayhem meditation. No one will protect you from mayhem. Not your nuclear power company, promising safe, clean, efficient power, nor your power-hungry government, and most assuredly not unsurance. Whatever brand insurance you have will likely cover a smidgen of the replacement and none of the cleanup costs. Once you've won your war with the company, determining whether they're obligated to pay you even a fraction of what you've paid them. But as far as the mayhem itself goes, you're alone with whatever your God or upbringing or DNA gave you. Fortitude, equanimity, or ungainly, video-enhanced floundering. So tell us, how do you feel watching your home go 6 feet under? Could you cry a little for the camera? So before I read the title poem, I'm going to explain, just for those of you who don't know, when you go from one room in the house to another room and you can't remember what you intended to do there, it's not necessarily senility. They have a word for that now. When you go through an entrance or an exit like a doorway, it's a signal to the unconscious to clear the decks for the next event. what psychologists call an event boundary, not to be confused with an event horizon, which has to do with black holes. Event boundaries. Such a comfort to know it's temporary dementia when I enter a room and forget why I came, to fetch a pen, to write a note, to remember the task my brain's just mislaid. I've only to pass back through the fogging doorway to reclaim a resolution or name, and conversely, a relief to think I won't have to live every future tick and tock of my anxious watch, recalling how distraught I was over anyone's death. I've only to stroll a doorframe's border to forget a particular grief, misbegotten love, or moral lapse to escape the rasp of conscience or self-flagellation, to visit the nations of remembrance or amnesia as I please. So I'm going to read a poem called Sigh, and then I'm going to read a poem called After. And you should know the poem called After is in conversation with the lyrics to Leonard Skinner's Freebird. So you don't have to know the lyrics to appreciate the poem, but you will more if you do. Sigh. April snow bends each lilac branch, heavy and wet is your body on mine after lovemaking, but less warm, in truth, a better simile for loss than love, though love appears predicated on loss or the fear of it. Surely every new love predicts new loss. Branch, you bend more easily than we, but sooner break. The snow's weeping is its vanishing, but the lilac's sigh of relief is not its life. No breath is ours to keep, just as no body is. After oxygen failed to reach his brain, maybe strains of the Leonard Skinnerd he loved lofted over the street. Free bird with no one there to tame or change it. Maybe it annoyed a neighbor weary of hearing its repetition. A finite irritation, last song on the album, and no one left to replay it. Maybe he died in silence, he craved more than sound, soul free of the interfering ego's constant harping, free of what he could not change. None of us could help him, he wouldn't change. No one helped him tie the knots to make the noose. Alcohol changed him in ways not even he could know. Of the last of this man's life, who so loved company, all we know is he died alone, his mind a bird he couldn't change. Can a mind exist without a brain? No dictionary locates it. A bird always free to fly. Yes, we still remember you. The coroner said the noose stopped oxygen. My brother died alone at the end of his rope. Black comedy for my brother. In tune with the cell phone's staticky rendering of Leonard Skinner's Freebird, we cast his ashes in the river, lodged in the funeral home's best custom cardboard bowl, but they don't float as they're supposed to. The painted disc plops and sinks like every stone I've ever thrown, in anger or boredom or striving to skip, in short, like every swan dive turned belly flop, every stillborn hope. Suicide lament. Adrift on indifferent waves, blinded by fog so saturated it beads and drips from every face. Afraid we'll hear behind the veil a chorus of regret for the misspent, a lament heaven of angels wailing for all they failed to save, an eternity of weeping interspersed by celestial music sung sotto voce, to remind us of all we miss. Grief, like an ocean we're afraid we'll never reach the shore of, and no lifeboat sailing toward our veil. The terror of doors. No one considers the door's terror, held so tenuously by such flimsy hinges, longing for an access so awe-inspiring only its God could open it, avoiding endless submission to the careful and careless alike. The sideways, swinging fall as the universe shoulders in, slamming the door against the wall. Doors want to stay in a frame's familiar embrace, though one rebel, slanted and swelled, refusing to fit, preferring to stay where its bottom found a seat on the equally unruly floor. And a querulous door sometimes bangs so deliberately in unperceived breezes as to unnerve its owners with seeming agency, an urge to escape its fate and go winging off after something unimaginable in space, the knob turned beak or aeronautical control stick to steer past stars, the frame abandoned to examine its navel, and the wall, never elated by the hole put in it, now a toothless mouth, a rectangular O of awe or terror, as the gods of chance advance. Reach. The cut tulips bloom too soon to last as long as I will them to. If another's will could keep one tulip, brother, or parent alive, what altered world would we inhabit? The tulip's mortal wounds don't prevent their curving and recurving each time I shift them in their vase, seeking, for reasons I don't understand, a more perfect symmetry. The sun rises before I do, and the tulips, as if light could save them, have with their dying reach arced again beyond my will for them, sideways, as far as their dismembered stems allow, into its animating grace by the time I wake. Turning 40, what I say, what I know. I say no sex is worth dying for, no man worth living with, never mind for. I say caution, comma, is my new first name, my old first name, my last. I say not even death will know me. I know the first bite of any apple's best, the one the mouth's juices leap to meet, whose sweet sting laves the tongue's ache, the bite against which hunger breaks, and the pleasure of being bitten. Sieve. Young men seem all edges and hard angles, shoulders like shelves, bellies like slides, to the most obvious of pleasures. Young women all crisp curves, so round and firm, their union seems geometrically insoluble. We soften as we age, our geometries slipping and sliding in small or quantum leaps. Bodies and definitions blurring as we morph like mercury into each new self we shape. Living softens us to fill death's vessel, not like the solid we seem, but the liquid we are, so we may slip the cup like the sieve it is. And last one. Oh, Chicago, oh, hair. One among the shifting mass of humanity intent on countless destinations. One hungry stomach and dry mouth among many. One brain dazed by the speed and altitude of flights unnatural to any animal. by herding, followed by waiting, succeeded by rushing, waiting, herding, and more flight, incomprehensible to any body contained in the seemingly unwieldy mass of metal lifting improbably over Chicago, where a misty orange aura hovers over the city's brighter lights, as if its soul sought ascension it could only attempt, as if the aura might break free and follow us, wherever we might fly, wheresoever we may rest, one with the multitude of humans on